Hello guys, welcome back to another Android application development tutorial. Today we are going to make a simple online image gallery app using Glide image loading library. Before going to make the application here, I'm going to show you the exact Android app that we are going to make. Here is the application. Now we are going to make an Android app similar to this one. Here we need a web server. Here I'm going to use a localhost. Here the localhost is a wamp server application. I already made the server side components for the application. I will show you the server side components. Go to the installation folder of wamp server. Go to the public directory. Here I place a folder called the gallery app. In that folder we have another two folders called images and scripts. So you can place all the images needed for the gallery app within this folder. So here these are the images available on the gallery app. And you can place any server side scripts within this folder. Here already one PHP script is available. I will show you it later. So for this application we need a database. I already made the database. So go to the home page of wamp server. On address bar type localhost. Open phpMyAdmin. Here we have a database called the gallery app DB. In that database we have a table called album info. So the table contains two columns, ID and title. Both are string values. These are the contents of the table. The table contains some IDs and some album title. So this is the database. Now I will show you the PHP script available on the server. So this is the PHP script used for the Android app. So here we declare some variables like host name, username, database name. So the first thing, we need to establish a connection to the database. So for establish a connection to the database, here I use a function called MySQL connect. For that function you need to pass parameters like host name, username, password and database name. So this function will establish a connection to the database and we save the connection to a variable called con. Now we need to retrieve information from the table. So this is the SQL query for retrieve information from the table. Here the table name is album info. Now we need to execute the SQL command. For that here I use a function called MySQL query. For that function you need to pass two parameters. First one is the connection and second one is the SQL query. Here a response is an array. Now we need to go through each of the row from the result and we have to fetch information from each column. For that here I use a while loop. So in order to retrieve each row from the result, here I use a function called MySQL fetch array. Here we get information from each column and make it in the form of a name value pair and save that name value pair into the array called response. For that here we use a function called array push. Here we perform the JSON encode and finally we output the result using echo. And here we close the connection to the MySQL database. So this is the PHP script used on the server side. So before going to use this PHP script with our Android app, we need to make sure that this PHP script is working fine. For that we can test it. Open your browser. Go to the PHP script available on localhost. So this is the response from the localhost. This is a JSON array that contains a number of JSON objects. So here each JSON object has two properties, ID and title. So this is the response from the localhost. So now the server database is ready. Now we can start with the Android application development. Open Android Studio and start a new Android Studio project. Specify your application name. Here I name it into gallery app. Select the empty activity. Okay, now the project is created. So the first thing, we need to add some dependency to this Android Studio project. You need to add these dependencies to the Gradle script of your Android Studio project. So the first one is for using card view, second one is for using a recycler view, third one is for using Volley, and the final one is for using the glide image loading library. So I copy all these dependencies. Now go to the module level Gradle script file and add it to the dependency section. Now make a project sync. Okay, now the project sync finishes successfully. You can close this file. Now for this application, there is no need of the default action bar. So instead of this action bar, here we are going to use a toolbar. So we can remove this action bar first. For that, open a resource folder, go to values folder, open styles.xml. Here we can make a simple change here. So this will simply remove the default action bar with this application. So now the action bar is gone. So instead of this action bar, here we are going to add a toolbar. So you need to create a separate layout file for adding the toolbar. So right click the layout folder and create a new layout resource file. Here I name it as toolbar layout. And change the root element into toolbar. The layout is created. Here change height into action bar size. Now specify the background color for the action bar, toolbar. We use the color primary for the background. Now specify an ID for the toolbar. Now we need to apply some theme for the toolbar. For that, here we need an additional XML namespace. Change this one into resource auto and change identifier name into app. By using that newly created namespace, we can set a theme for the application. Here I'm going to need a dark theme. So here I apply a dark theme for the toolbar. So this will display the font in white text. Okay, now the toolbar is ready. Now we can add this toolbar to the activity main.xml. So go to activity main.xml. Here remove these unwanted margins and change the root element into a linear layout. And this is a linear layout, so you have to specify an orientation for this layout. Here I use vertical orientation for this layout. Now we can add the toolbar here. So include that layout. Okay, now the toolbar available on the activity main.xml. Now go to main activity.java. Declare some variables for toolbar. Now initialize that variable. Typecast that one into toolbar. Now find it. Now set supported action bar into toolbar. Here we are going to use Volley for the network transactions. So here I'm going to follow the singleton pattern for using Volley. So we need a separate Java class for the Volley singleton pattern. So right click the package and create a new Java class with the class name MySingleton. Here we need to declare some variables. First one is an instance of this class. I name it as minstance. Now create some context variable. This is also a static variable. Now create a variable for request queue. Now I am going to create a method that return a request queue. So it's a private method, private. Here the return type is a request queue. The method name is get request queue. So first here we check some condition. If the request queue is null, in that case we need to initialize the request queue. So request queue equal to volley.new request queue, and by using the context get application context, now we need to return the request queue from this method. So return request queue. Now we need a constructor for this class, private MySingleton, and the constructor with one parameter. It is a context variable. Now we can initialize the variables from here. First initialize the context. Now initialize the request queue. So you can simply call the get request queue method. Now we need to create another method that return an instance of this class. That one is a public method. It is a static method. It is a synchronized method. Here the return type is an object of this class. And for this method we need one parameter, is a context variable. Here check some condition. If minstance is null, in that case initialize that variable minstance equal to new MySingleton and pass the context parameter. Finally return the instance from this method, return minstance. Now we need to create another method for adding each request to the request queue. So it is a public method with void return type, and the method name is add to request queue. So here the parameter is always a request. Now we need to add this request to the request queue. So you can call the method called get request queue. Now add the request to the request queue. Okay, now the singleton pattern is ready. Now here I am going to create another Java class with the class name config. In this class, I declare and initialize two final string static variable. The first one is image path and second one is server URL. The image path variable contains the path to each image available on the server, and the second variable server URL contains the path to the PHP script available on the server. So here I use an IP 10.0.2.2. This is because here we are going to test this application using an Android virtual device. So this is the default IP used by every Android virtual device to access the localhost. Now here I am going to create a Pojo class with the class name album. Declare some variables ID and title. Now specify the getter and setter methods for these variables. Select getter and setter methods. Now we need a constructor for this class. Now create another constructor, and for this constructor we need some parameters. First one is a string value, it is ID, and second one is title. Now from the constructor call the setter methods. Set ID and pass the ID parameter. Now set the title. Now we need to create a separate layout file for each item on the recycler view. So here each item is a card view. So each card view contains an image view and a text view. So the image view display the album images and a text view for display each album title. So here each item is a card view. So we need to create a separate layout file for each item. So before doing that, we need to add a recycler view to the activity main.xml. So go to activity main.xml and add a recycler view here. Specify the width into match parent, height into wrap content. Specify an ID for it. I name it into recycler view. Now specify the scroll bars. Here we need vertical scroll bars. Okay, so now for testing purpose we need to add some image to this project. So I copy one image and put it inside the drawable folder. This is just for a testing purpose. So now we need to create a separate layout file for each item on the recycler view. So create a layout file with file name item view. So this is the layout file that represents each item on the recycler view. So here the root element is a linear layout. In that element, here I place a card view with elevation 3 dp, layout gravity into center, and specify the card corner radius into 4 dp. And in that card view, here I place a relative layout that contain an image view that display the album image with ID thumbnail, and this is the text view that display the album title with ID album title. Now we need to create the adapter for the recycler view. So create a new Java class with the class name recycler adapter, and that class extends adapter. Here you need to implement some methods, implement the needed methods. So first here I'm going to create the view holder class. With the class name myViewHolder. That class extends viewHolder. So here you need to add a constructor Now here you need to add the generic type that is an object of the viewHolder class. So for this method, the return type is an object of the viewHolder class, and here the first parameter is an object of the viewHolder. Here we need to declare some variables. First one is an array list that contains some object of album class. Now we need some variable for activity. Now create a constructor for this class. The constructor contains some parameters. First one is an array list that contains some album object. Second one is a context variable. Now we can initialize the array list. Now initialize the activity using the context parameter. So here typecast into activity. Now from the getItemCount method, we can return the size of the array list. So inside the viewHolder class, here we need to declare some variables. First one is an image view. Second one is the text view. Now we can initialize these two view components from the constructor of this class and with this parameter item view. So first we can initialize the image view. So typecast that one into image view. Find it. Now initialize the text view. Typecast into text view. Now by using this parameter, now find it. That is album title. Now go to the onCreate viewHolder. First create some view variable, layout inflator from parent.getContext inflate r.layout. The layout name is item view. Now pass parent and one more argument is there. For that we can pass false. Now we need to return an object of viewHolder class from here. So return new myViewHolder and pass the view as argument. Now go to the onBindViewHolder method. So first we can set the text for the text view. So holder dot title dot set text. Get each object from the array list. So arraylist dot get and pass the position. Now call the get method from the album class, I mean the Pojo class. So here it is get title. Now we need to set the image on the image view. So for setting the image here, we are going to use the glide image loading library. So here create some string value, string path equal to. Now get the image path from the configuration class. So config dot image path. Now get the image name from the Pojo class. So arraylist and pass the position. Now call the getter method get id. So this will here we receive the image name. Now we need to specify the file extension. Here each file is a JPG file. Okay. Now we can load the image using glide image loading library. So glide with activity and load it from a URL. Here the URL is path. Now specify the image view by using into method holder dot thumbnail. Okay, now the adapter class is ready. Now go to main activity.java. Here we need to declare some variables. First one is an array list that contains some album object and initialize that variable here. Now initialize the recycler view. Now initialize the adapter for recycler view. Here it is a recycler adapter. Now specify a layout manager for the recycler view. Now we can initialize these variables. So recycler view equal to typecast that one into recycler view. Now find it. Now initialize the layout manager. Here it is a grid layout manager. Here we need 2 columns. Now set the layout manager for the recycler view. To improve performance, you can set has fixed size into true. This will improve the performance of the recycler view. Now we need to get the information from the database. So here we are going to use the Volley for getting information from the localhost. So here we need to make a JSON array request. So create a JSON array request. So first one, you need to specify the method. Here we are going to use the post method. Now specify the URL. So here the URL available on the config class, server URL. Now here the third parameter is a string value, so here we can pass null for it. Now specify the listeners. Now specify the error listener. Now we need to add this JSON array request to the request queue. So we can use the singleton, my singleton, get instance, and pass the context. Now add it to the request queue. Now we can handle the response. So here the response is a JSON array. So here declare some variables. Now we need to get each of the JSON object from the JSON array. For that we can use a while loop and set some condition if count less than response.length. Now get each JSON object from the JSON array. So create a variable for JSON object, response.get JSON object, and pass the variable count. Here you need to add some try catch. Now we need to get each data from the JSON object and save it in the form of an object of album class. So here we need to create an object of album class. So album. And after creating that object of album class, we need to add each of that album class object to the array list. So we can make it in one statement. So array list dot add. Now we need to create the object of album class, new album. So here you need to pass two parameters. First one is the ID and second one is the title. So we can check the response from servers. This is the response from localhost. Each JSON object has two property, ID and title. So first we need to pass the ID. So JSON object dot get string. First one is ID. Now we need to get the second data, JSON object dot get string. It is title. So here we create object for the album class and add each object to the array list. One more thing, don't forget to increment the variable count by 1. So after this while loop, we can initialize the adapter for the recycler view. So adapter, new recycler adapter, and pass the array list. Also activity context. Finally, set the adapter on the recycler view. And pass the adapter. Now we can test our application. So before going to test it, you need to set the internet permission inside your Android manifest file. So users permission, internet permission is needed. Now run the application. Select a virtual device. Okay, now the application is working fine. So while using glide image loading library for the gallery app, you need to consider two test cases. First one, if the image is not available on the server or there is an error occur while trying to download the image. And the second test case is a low internet connection speed. In both these cases, it will take a little bit time to load the actual image from the server. So if you are not handling this situation, it will affect the overall user experience of your Android application. So there is solution for these two problems in Glide. So for that, here I am going to add some additional images to this application. So here I am going to add these two images to this Android app. The purpose of this first image is, if the target image is not available on server, or if there is an error occur while trying to download the image, Glide will load this image. And this is a placeholder image. That means this image will display just before the actual image downloaded from the server. So if there is an error occur or there is a slow internet connection speed, it will not affect the user experience of your application. So now I copy these two images. Now open Android Studio. Now put it in the drawable folder. Now go to the adapter class. Here make some additional attributes. First one is a placeholder. So this image will load just before the actual image downloaded from the server. So get it from the drawable folder. Now we need to handle the error situation. If the image is not available on the server or there is an error occur, in that case we have to load another image. It is image not found. Okay, now we can test it again. And here you can see that placeholder image appears just before the actual image is loaded from the server. Now go to localhost. Here I am going to add one more column, one more row, insert another row with ID pick 11 with album title. So here I add an additional column, additional row here, but that image is not available on the server. Now we can test what happens. Okay, run the application again. We need to restart this application. Close it. Now start it again. And here it is. So that album is available here, but that image is not available on the server. So in that case, Glide will load the error image. So this is how we use a Glide image loading library for creating a gallery app. I hope you understand the concepts. Please subscribe my channel for getting more Android video updates. See you in the next episode.